Hi guys, Jason McGill with Salis Personal Solutions. I recently wrote an article on the site called Your Difficult Child and wanted to take a moment to discuss that article a little bit and help you out. First of all, I'd like to say I'm not calling anyone's child difficult, but we all know children have difficult days, and maybe you do have a child that's difficult more days than not, and want to try to help you with a few things that might assist you in dealing with a child when they're having a tantrum. First of all, I would say, know the child, know if they were up late the night before, with teeth, being sick, whatever it might be, that they may have a difficult day the next day. It might be 2 days until their sleep gets adjusted. Just like us, when we don't get enough sleep, we can be a little irritable and grumpy. So be a little proactive. Imagine that, they didn't get much sleep last night. They may have a difficult day today. I need to be prepared for that, meaning I'm not going to react poorly when they are throwing a tantrum in the middle of the grocery store. Okay, so what I want you to think about is being like Spock from Star Trek. Okay, he always talked about how his human counterparts were illogical and run by emotion, and they let their emotions get in the way. What I want you to do when the child is having a breakdown is not let your emotions get in the way. Okay, and that it can be very counterintuitive, especially if they are throwing a fit in the middle of the grocery store. Keep using that example. It could be a parking lot, even at your house. It doesn't matter. Your reaction immediately starts to, it gets run. That anger, underlying the anger, it gets you to the point of blowing up. What's underlying that is a lot of maybe frustration, embarrassment, be any other thing, and we get to the point where we're yelling at the kid, we're screaming at the kid, or you're spanking the kid. That's what we don't want, okay? You want the child to know that you're not mad at them. That's first. That this is a discipline thing, it's a behavior thing. You're not mad at the child. And a lot of children can, especially ones that aren't really, socially, emotionally well adjusted, that might need this help a little bit more than other children, they might internalize you yelling and screaming at them and take that as rejection. They're going to take that as rejection of themselves as a person, as a little human being. And that's not what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is tell them that the behavior is the problem. The outbursts, the throwing things, the screaming, whatever it is that child does, that's the thing you don't like. Okay, it's not the child themselves. So let them know that you're not mad at them. You have to communicate with them. Let them know, I'm not mad at you, but hey, screaming, yelling, throwing things, that's not okay. That's not appropriate behavior. We don't do that. Now, when I say we don't do that, got to think about, are you modeling appropriate behavior as an adult? Are you screaming, throwing things, doing the things you see the child doing when you get upset? Take a moment, think about your child getting upset, and is that like a little tiny you when you are upset? We want to model the appropriate behavior for the children, and by that we want to stay calm, be able to talk with them about what's going on and work through things. So that's what you want to show your child that you can do, even at home, on the phone, with a family, friends, whoever it is you might be having a difficult time with. When the children are around, you want to have your best face on and show them that this is how I deal with problems, okay? And you're teaching them that that's how they can deal with their problems too, and that things work out. So let them know you're not mad at them, but the thing that they're doing was not appropriate. And then let them choose, what their consequence might be, whether it's a timeout, going to the room, if they need to lose something, a privilege of doing something, let them know that can be a consequence. And when they're ready, that you can talk about it with them. Okay, and that gives them back a little bit of control of the situation. Okay, let them choose, like, would you like to go to timeout or to your room? Those are your choices, A or B. Doesn't need to be a drag out fight. Don't need to make it more complicated than things already are. Just give them a couple of choices if they're old enough and say, hey, right now you can go to your room and calm down, or you can sit in timeout. Which one do you choose? Okay, you're giving them a little bit of control. Something else that's a little counterintuitive for some parents is to give back a little bit of that control. Okay, we want to say, I'm the parent, you listen to me when I'm talking, you do what I say, that kind of stuff. Well, how's that been working out for you? If the child's throwing a tantrum and the child throws tantrums on a regular basis and you always handle it the same way, and things aren't getting better, maybe try something new. Give them a little bit of control. Let them think they're in control, right? Whether they choose to go to their room or time out, either one, you win, right? The child is having a consequence, but you're letting them choose what the consequence will be. Want to make sure they understand. I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the behavior. And then, when they calm down, they make the choice, I'm going to go to my room, say, hey, I think that's a good choice. Hey, you did a really good job calming down. It seems to be very difficult for adults and parents to give children that little pat on the back for behavior that we expect. And that's the problem, is we expect the child to behave. Well, they're children. You were a child once. Did you always behave? No. So when they are doing the right thing in a difficult time, when they're really upset, you really got to hammer that, like, hey, you did a really awesome job calming down. Thank you for that. You'd be surprised at how the child reacts to that. Hey, I think going to your room was a good choice. Okay, now when you're ready, let me know and we'll talk about what happened. All right? You're giving the child control again. When you're ready, let me know. Okay? The ball's in their court. Amazing things happen. They'll come out, they'll let you know, then you talk about it. Say, do you understand why I had you go to timeout? Do you understand why you needed to go to your room? Talk about it. Again, reiterate. You know I'm not mad at you, right? I don't like that behavior. That's not how we handle problems. Then ask them, what do you think you could have done differently? Get them involved in the process. Don't just, have a lecture. Don't just lecture the child about what's right or wrong. You don't know what they're understanding and what they're not understanding. And just because you say, do you understand, and they shake their head, doesn't mean they understand. Have them repeat it. Kids are in a fascinating world in their head, and they may tell you something, and they may make links that don't really make sense to you, but it makes perfect sense to them. They may link it to an episode of some of their favorite shows, and if you haven't been paying attention, you might not know what they're talking about. So have them explain it a little bit. See if you're on the same page. Okay? And then tell them, yeah, it's exactly like that. It's exactly like what you said. Okay? Give that child a sense of control. Give that child a little sense of playing a part in the discipline. Okay? And you'll see a much better result than just lecturing, yelling at them, telling them what they need to do. Okay? Be calm the entire time. That is the biggest hurdle that adults face when dealing with children, when the children are doing these things. Okay, you've got the adults that go to one end of the spectrum, which is yell, scream, throw tantrum themselves and look ridiculous. Then you have the other end of the spectrum, and you've seen these parents too. The child is screaming and doing all sorts of stuff, and the parent is not paying any attention at all. Both of those are wrong, okay? Both of those are sending a message that it's almost okay. So if a child is screaming, yelling, and throwing a tantrum because they want attention, you give them attention by yelling and screaming and everything else, and you've just kind of reinforced that behavior for them. Hey, if I want attention, I scream and yell and throw a fit. The other end is true too. Okay? The child wants this attention, and they're screaming and yelling and doing all this stuff, and then you don't give them any attention. I know you think you're doing the right thing there, but you're also reinforcing for that child that I can get away with this anytime I want, anywhere I want. Nobody's doing anything about it. And the attention I'm getting isn't from my parent, but it's from all the people standing around me looking at me throwing a fit on the floor at the, clothing store. There's a fine line in there that you need to follow. You got to walk that fine line. Don't get upset. Don't fuel the fire. Pay attention to the child. Try to understand where they're coming from. but do it in a very calm fashion. Okay, and make sure that you're modeling appropriate behavior for them. You try to handle your problems in the same way, right? Talk about it. No yelling, swearing, screaming, throwing fits. Say, wow, I'm really upset right now. When this happens, I get very upset. It upsets me because. Teach them the language to use. Teach them I statements. If you need to know more about I statements, Google it. Look up I statements. There are lots of different variations. Okay? But it's a very powerful sort of formula to follow in how to communicate your feelings. I feel blank when blank because blank, and I need or I want blank. Fill in the blanks. Okay? Like I said, check it out. A lot of variations out there. But be calm with your child. Be calm. Let them play a part in the discipline process. Teach them how to communicate with you about what's going on. You'll see a totally different child. Now, if you're dealing with a child that has impulse control problems and other things, it may take a lot longer. It may take all your patience. But what I'm telling you right now, especially if you're dealing with a child that has impulse control problems or some sort of behavioral problems, you will see changes. What you can expect, especially from a child that might have a behavior disorder, you can expect it to get worse before it gets better. And that's not to mean that what you're doing isn't working. It's actually the opposite. It is working. And that's why the child's getting worse. The child is trying to control and manipulate when they know they're losing control. They're seeing a different side of the parent. The parent isn't reacting in the same ways anymore. The child's not getting the attention that they once got because now the parent is being very calm, cool and collected, like Spock, talking almost like a robot, not getting upset no matter how upset the kid gets. They're losing control. They don't understand what to do. So they up the ante. They make things worse. And that's when you're really tested. And if you can keep doing the same things and keep remaining calm with consequences, okay, you'll see a difference. Kids want those boundaries. They need those lines that they can't cross. They need to know what they are. And if you can tell them in a calm, cool, collected way, here's the boundary, you crossed it, now here's the consequence. And you follow through like that every time, you will see results. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. If you've been trying stuff like this and it hasn't worked for you, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Type in a comment. Let me know what you think. This is Jason from Sal's Personal Solutions. You take care and take care of your difficult child, okay? Thanks. Bye.